you can start.
Okay, I start again. Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody for this new webinar on universal value, the search for fairness as the means to peace in global relations. It's a project sponsored by the IAAP, the International Associations of Academicians for Peace, which is a group under the Universal Peace Federation of UPF. And this is a very interesting topic, universal values. And mostly we talk about relative values, but are there any universal values? We have a candidate here on the table today about rules of reciprocity, like the golden rule. They challenge us to go beyond random and egocentric behavior, to be intentional. And we wonder what is required for such thinking to be normative for a new peaceful age. And the first one to weigh in on this issue is Dr. Albert Celoza. He is the executive director of the Arizona Interfaith Movement. And his long and distinguished career of achievements include having served as faculty in world religions and political science since the 1980s at the Phoenix College, Thunderbird School of Global Management, and the Arizona State University. He's also a faculty of the Brandeis University ENACT, the Educational Network for Active Civic Transformation, the International Center for Ethics, Justice, and Public Life. And he has given classes and chaired the session for nonviolence at the Franciscan Renewal Center here in Arizona, in Phoenix area, in Scottsdale actually, and has been the president for the United Nations Association in Phoenix and Arizona. He is currently board president of the Asian Pacific Community in Action. Among his many published works is the book Ferdinand Marcos and the Philippines, The Political Economy of Authoritarianism. He's married and proud father of two grown daughters. So without further ado, kindly unmute Dr. Celoza. The floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Am I projecting, Dr. Berg?
You're good. You're good.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your very kind introduction. And this is really very, very important a question of universal values. What this has prompted me to do is to think about those things that what we are about as human beings, as human societies. So I think the age of enlightenment, beginning in the 17th century, has focused on a number of things, but I think one key thing is the recognition of the human person, the human individual, that the human individual has some inalienable rights, and that the human being is the purpose, and the human flourishing of society is done through the individual. So as such, beginning in the 1600s, the 17th century, there has been much talk or beginnings about the talk about rights. Individuals have rights. Individuals have rights, and they need their rights to be protected in order for them to be a vital part of society. So I recognize that. And also around the 1600s, there's the beginning of the era of the nation state. People are bunched together into a society, into a country. And so beginning in the 1600s, people begin to owe their loyalty to countries and become citizens rather than subjects of kings and emperors. They become citizens of countries. So as such, we began with rights. And so in the 1700s, with the revolutionary era in the United States and in France, you have the recognition of the rights of people. But it seemed to me that in the 21st century, we need to also look into the other side of rights, and that is our obligation. And so I think this is what I connected with in terms of the universal values. So what do I mean by obligations? So a book came out. The book is entitled The Bill of Obligations by Richard Haas. And Richard Haas came up with a number of obligations that hopefully will give us as citizens a way by which we could respect the values of us living in a society. So I will briefly allude to them and then yield to our moderator, Dr. Berg. So the first thing is to be informed. It's very important to be informed because we impact other people, we impact society. We might as well be informed about what is going on, about the history of our society. The other thing is beyond being informed. Number two is to be involved. We impact others. We have an influence on other people. And so we need to get involved positively. And I think the golden rule has doing the good turn, being kind and doing the good turn to others is very important. Number three, Richard Haas says, stay open to compromise. Each of us are asserting our rights. Each of us, however, have to also be open to responsibilities. And we can only do that if we are open to compromise with other people. Now, one thing that has been alluded to in the introduction is that I've been involved in peace building. And so I think we need to remain civil. We need to, in relation to that, reject violence. Violence as a way of forcing other people to get our way. And then the next step, according to Haas, is to value norms. What are norms? Well, being nonviolent is a norm. Being peaceful is a norm. Rejecting violence, promoting peace, that's a norm. And then I think there is one other norm that is being promoted, and that is promoting the common good, which really comes out in terms of a compromise. What do you think is good for you? What do you think is good for society? So it's not about that's what's good for me, it's also what's good for society. And then the last three obligations he said are to respect government. I think in general, I'm referring to American society, people have very low respect or consideration for people who work for government. However, government is that mechanism whereby we gather together, we talk to each other, and we establish consensus. And so, second to the last, we need to support the teaching of civics. What do you mean by civics? Well, civics means values. Civics means our obligation to each other as a civil society. You know, there's that famous statement from Aristotle, man is a political animal. Now, it doesn't mean that we are bad. No, what that means is we belong to a society and we have values that we need to respect and we need to uphold in order for us to be peaceful and considerate of each other. And so I think with that introduction, values are very important. We need to be very intentional what our values are. The value of peace is very important. The value of nonviolence, not hurting others, the value of the common good, the value of remaining civil, the value of remaining open to compromise. We need to get involved. We need to talk about things instead of shooting. instead of hurting each other, it is very important to be involved peacefully. And then, of course, lastly, we need to be intentional, to be educated about all these things so that we can contribute better to a good society. So with that, Dr. Berg, I think those are some of the things that we could the values that we could promote in order to create a peaceful society. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Salosa. You've taken us on a whirlwind here of a few hundred years, and I'm sure many of our minds have been expanded by this, your statements, and will populate the chat box here with questions, I am sure. So wow. I really appreciate that. It's coming. Anyway, we are not through yet with presentations, and we have one more presenter this day, and that is Dr. Grace Sellover. She is the Executive Secretary of PWPA International, which is the Professors World Peace Academy. Dr. Grace grew up in Taiwan, and she came as a student to the US and got her master's degree at the Unification Theological Seminary in New York, and earned her doctorate later on at the Sunhak UP Graduate University in South Korea, with a dissertation on emerging women's pastoral leadership. She has a passion for women's ministry based on the innate motherly empathy for family, community, and her Pentecostal background lends her to see the paramount importance of a mother's love in nurturing her children and providing services for the common good of others. She and her husband have 2 adult sons and 2 grandchildren. Dr. Grace, kindly unmute. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Berg. I'm very happy to join in today's webinar program and offer a presentation on women's roles in shared value society.
Yeah, your PowerPoint is up. Not yet full screen. There it is. Thank you. I think you might want to go back to the beginning. So click on a few more beginnings.
Also, Dr. Grace, there's an arrow on the bottom left of your screen. You might want to just click that.
Oh, we got it. Thank you. Would you kindly unmute, Dr. Grace? I think we are missing your voice.
Good. So can I be heard now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, to say something first about women's role in general, I would like to begin with a well-known passage from the Bible, Genesis 1:27. In this passage, the creation process leads to human beings. So God created humans in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Women are designed by God with both life-bearing and the life-nurturing qualities. They are equipped with the mothering instinct, or we can call the mothering capacity, which will naturally flow and manifest in their care, concern, and hope for their children, including adult children. And this love is originated from God. Let's take a look at the Bible again. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. From Matthew 23:37.
I think you, Dr. Grace, you clicked the mute button on yourself again.
It just popped out again.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is God, the heavenly parent's heart, the heart of a mother. The tender, loving, caring, sensitive heart to hope, heal, cure, comfort, consult, encourage, lift up, inspire, and resonate in her children. The nurturing nature that God grants woman to suit perfectly with her spirit and the body enables woman to care, encourage, inspire, lift up others, to bring about a wholesome, healthy, and harmonious relationship in her surroundings, including her family and her community. A mother plays an important role in her family as an emotional access, provider of physical nourishment, as well as supplier of spiritual vitality. Motherhood is an unchanging principle. In a certain way, the entire universe revolves around motherhood. A successful motherhood is the role to be played by love-centered women who are completely united with the Heavenly Parent's love, manifested by the love of Heavenly Mother, expressing her divinity in femininity. This central role of a woman is vital to her family, society, and nations. The following statement from the Dr. Ha Jung Moon describes the ministry of motherhood vividly and tangibly. A sound, healthy family is the school of love and the virtue, and enlightened women are the center of the love, peace, and service that preserves the family. The starting point of world peace lies with the mothers at the center of such families, families that perfect and bring God's true love to fruition. The feminine aspect of God enhances and supports the woman's role in the community. Not only can they nurture the needy and spiritually fight a good fight like men do, but also they can embrace the discouraged and the lost, reach out to the weak and the disabled, comfort the isolated and the unappreciated, and provide unconditional care and support to the larger society. The society needs what a mother's heart can provide. Principled women can bring motherly perspectives and gifts to their immediate community. They can provide a more balanced and collaborative relationship and environment. Together with men leaders in the society, they are the agents to bring positive change, harmony, cooperation, complementarity, and a dynamic team spirit to the society. Now, I would like to introduce the concept of shared value. Values can bring people together as well as separate people from each other. When a value is shared, people work together for common values and common goals. When a reciprocal relationship embraces and resonates love from both parties, then the value can be appreciated and shared. Such a value and the love through this relationship can be applied and promoted to a society. Let us take a look at the term of universal value. It refers to the idea of a joint ethics which everybody in the society observes, practices, and promotes. This joint ethics is viewed as public righteousness that is impartial, moral justice, which is somewhat related to the divine righteousness that mentioned in the Bible. As people are sharing value on a daily basis, they can appreciate and promote universal value, especially women toward their families are in the position of nurturing, fostering, and guiding. Women can expand their spheres of inclusion by sharing universal values. Such value and love in this kind of relationship can go a long way toward overcoming barriers among people. This shared value society approach can also be applied on a national level, such as the issue between North and South Korea.
Dr. Grace, I
Yes.
don't know, are you still on the slide or are you ahead on the slides?
I'm going to change the slide now.
There you are. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is that okay? Okay.
Yes.
So both South and North Korea think that I am right. It is like the situation that two kids are fighting and they each think that they are right. What can we do? How can all Korean people share the Korean Peninsula? What can be helpful? How can we make this Korean Peninsula a peaceful world? Let us look back at the 1970s. At the time, North Korea was experiencing severe economic decline and faced bankruptcy. Even so, the North Korean government still spent a good portion of its budget on its military and the nuclear program, while the people were experiencing widespread starvation. In relating to North, South Korea, South Korea created the Sunshine Policy, which was aimed to limit this gap in economic power and to restore lost communication between these two states. In addition, the Sunshine Policy aimed to soften the North's attitude toward the South by encouraging interaction and economic assistance. The South did actually seek cooperation and reconciliation with the North. The goal for the South was peaceful coexistence with the North rather than regime change. The focus was on integration rather than absorption. In addition, the South attempted to refrain from all usage of the term of reunification. In 2017, after the election of Moon Jae-in as the president, the South Korea began reconciling with the North once more, beginning a revival of the Sunshine Policy. Moon Jae-in's effort in improving inter-Korean relationship results in 3 inter-Korean summits in a year, including 2 summits held in Panmunjom, which is April and May 2018, and 1 summit in Pyongyang in September 2018. In recognition of Moon's endeavor in inter-Korean relationship as the first president to hold multiple summits in a year, his vision of the Sunshine Policy became known as Moonshine Policy. Personally, I think to improve the relation between the South and North, an intentional effort has to take place. A willingness has to happen on both sides of this effort of South and North Korea's reconciliation. On the national level, people must intentionally create that context. I call that a parental approach for the sake of a higher intention. That means to have the attitude that I appreciate you, I support you for what you have is what I am lacking, and you can take a look at what I have, which you may be lacking. If we ourselves have some limitation or restriction, we will look out for better choices so that we can appreciate each other more and recognize each other more and be able to work together, coexist together. The two parties can be complementary to each other, then each can see the other value to oneself. Then each can appreciate the other. Both parties can coexist harmoniously although each exists interdependently. This is what I call CHIP, C-H-I-P, the complementarily harmonious interdependent policy. As you can see, angle A and angle B together can make 90. No matter how big or small the angle A is, B can always complement A in order to make 90 degrees. Because I don't want to take too much time, I just going to show this. I find out this CHIP is very useful even in couples have husband-wife relationship, can be used in the court, including the international relations. Recent Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's administration is making progress in improving relations between Korea and Japan. The previous Moon Jae-in administration kept a distance with the US and used anti-Japanese sentiment among Koreans to be critical toward Japan, instead leaning toward China. But Yoon's position is trying to improve relations between Korea and Japan, which is what the US also wants to see happen. If Yoon is successful, how might that actually help the situation on the Korean Peninsula? If Yoon's administration has a better relation with Japan and the US, if President Yoon can still take some positive attitude toward the North Korea, it could be successful in terms of creating a cheap mentality between South and North Korea. So in conclusion, we can say that women value harmony. Sometimes a woman suffers a lot in order to maintain harmony in the family and the society. That is why women's role as supporters and advocates is important for nurturing a CHIP policy. The complementarity between men and women is the motivating engine and the driving force. Indeed, the CHIP model can be applied to many levels of human relations, beginning from the family, wider society, even international conflicted situations such as North and South Korea. At every level, the success of each model requires the full participation of women. As women play their roles at the family, community, and the national level with their counterpart, men, working together, they can bring success. These are the thoughts I have to share with you all today. I look forward to our discussion. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grace. Appreciate that. It's you have brought, and Dr. Celoza brought a wide perspective to this issue of the rules of reciprocity. And I think both of you lay kind of outside of where the golden or silver rule is usually applied. Dr. Celoza with the historical perspective, and Dr. Grace with this from talking about the role of women, a motherly role in, because so many of international politics and stuff or relations has been focused on men. So these are both very interesting comments. I really appreciate it. And I have a question. I wonder if, if we just keep on the international level, both of you commented on violence. How do we deal with that? Dr. Celoza in the points, the third point there was reject violence and harmonious relationship, Dr. Grace. So how do we deal with violence? And any comment on that?
I think rejecting violence is very important. And so probably one way to do it is to establish, in terms of international relations, establish areas and forums whereby we can dialogue each other, or we can really talk to each other. And so I think one forum available is the United Nations. The United Nations, and then the other area is the diplomatic relationship between and among countries, and then the support of other countries in terms of pursuing the interests of other countries. And so the European Union, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And so these are venues for discussion rather than fighting. Also, one other not heavily used yet, but nevertheless available, are international courts. And so I think those areas are kind of developing, and we probably will have more opportunities for dialoguing or discussing with each other as we move along. So the principle of not using violence or attacking each other is a very important part of this principle towards achieving universal peace. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I definitely agree with Dr. Saloza's comments that the violence is not acceptable. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. It's something, right is right, wrong is wrong. Wrong have to be disclosed, and to just like I treated the little kids. This is something wrong. It's not acceptable. Don't do it. You should not do it. But woman's role comes in this situation is to be able to serve and guide them patiently, lovingly, carefully, persistently, to convey the message. Yeah, because woman's parental motherly heart of in serving somehow. We see a lot of situations that because the services then can really make people change their heart. That's one scenario. Another one is to just be able to embrace and bring out what is right, what is wrong, and be able to help the other side to see what they don't have, and to be able to appreciate what the other side have. And that is very important because people could change minds, but the key as a woman's role is to really guiding as the advocates and the supporters in any situation. And woman is the potential the innate nurturing nature, as well as the serving, the heart of service, that really make them different and make them with the heavenly principle guidelines and to be persistent to serve. And that's something hopefully can make a change from the other end. As I say, the complementarity is something play a very important role in this relationship, I would say, because we each one have to see what we are lacking. No matter how arrogant a person, a proud person, in the bottom of their heart, they still notice that there's something they are lacking. And that's something we have to help them to be awake or understand something they are lacking. And then they need to appreciate what the other person have, but oneself don't have. So that's where the complementarity comes in. And then both sides have to understand we are also interdependent. You cannot just trying to, as you were saying in the North or South Korean situation, for instance, they are not trying to change the regime, but they're it's not trying to absorption either. They're trying to open up the communication and then to communicate, and one step at a time. The change can be slowly but surely. It can take place. And be persistent and continue. That kind of effort is needed, I think. a compromise, as Dr. Salosa mentioned about to be able to willing to be open-minded and stay open to compromise. Okay, yes, I see what you have and I see the strengths, I see what you have, and then please take a look, be open-minded to see what I have too, and then, we can benefit both sides, both ends. And I will say, situation can develop to a point like so-called win-win-win situation. You benefit and I benefit, and after all, heaven it can be benefit as well. And hopefully that's the goal.
I want to comment on Dr. Grace's presentation. It's been said that if women are in charge, they wouldn't want their children to be killed in a war. And so promoting feminine values of care. And when I say feminine values, I don't simply mean women, but everybody adopting the ethics of care, caring for each other as a very important value or norm. You want to respect life and dignity of the human person. And so the feminine value of care is very important. So thank you, Dr. Grace, for that concept. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting, in one way, it seems like North and South Korea, if they were the two different regimes were a married couple, and they kind of are. They don't live in the same house, but live on the same peninsula. And we could say they are kind of in divorce court, but they cannot run away. So, Dr. Salosa, you mentioned, there are many different ways to start communication again, and how do you have any suggestions in that area of conflict or dispute as we see there now? How can we get them back into a peaceful settlement? Is it any suggestions?
Well, I don't know that my suggestions are but one suggestion is probably tone down the threat of violence. And whenever there's a lot of nuclear testing, firing of missiles, I don't know that that's really helpful. A lot of it are threats, but perhaps experiencing certain things together, the peaceful things together might be helpful. In Asia, remember I said, when we greet each other, we don't say, how are you? They say, have you eaten already? So what about if we arrange people to get together and to eat together or cook together? And that might be a better way rather than firing missiles and testing all the throws of prospective nuclear weapons. That might be a good start. Let me also say that another thing that's really helping is, I'm very impressed with South Korea's projection into the world. Particularly, this might sound facetious to you, BTS and all the entertainment that we have, film, music, that might be a good way to start cooperation in terms of film, music, arts. So what do you think? Anyway, you're familiar with all the cultures. So yeah, music and the arts.
Yeah, actually, if I make comments on this, actually, BTS, they have been trying to really a positive influence to the world, and so a lot of young people, not just young people, people at all ages, they want to learn. They want to learn the language. They want to learn Korean, and they, because they like the song, they like the content, they like, the mood. Those young people dancing. They want to learn the language. They want to eat the Korean food. The kimchi become very popular. You can see that food anywhere, wherever which country you go, the kimchi become a very precious food that people really want to eat. They want to, even the Korean fashions. As a matter of fact, women's fashion is world number 1, 2, or 3. And honestly speaking, even I myself was there. I appreciate because they're just very, very modest for my age and really very appealing to the public. So all of a sudden, the Koreans, everything, food, culture, language, just become very popular, become very, very welcoming to a lot of people. So yeah.
By the way, talking about food, I didn't grow up with it, but I always have kimchi in my refrigerator. Partly, it's really great flavoring. And then the other aspect of it is that people have this fear about building your stomach bacteria, and yogurt and kimchi, and they do promote digestive health. And so I concur with that. I can attest to that.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, we probably need to have a club for kimchi or something. Make kimchi or eating kimchi or something.
Well, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Instead of just talking online here, we should eat online. Maybe that'd be good. Huh? Yeah. So in history, Dr. Salosa, the approachment or the liberation in India, Gandhi had this non-violent approach, and he kind of depended on the British sense of humanity, in a sense, for his success. But even though there was that kind of sense, the British response was not without occasional atrocity. How do you have any sense of how we can apply a certain, can that be applied to North-South Korea? Is that, do you feel it be any intermediate steps there? How can we deal with that?
I have a question related to your question. To what extent are families still separated between North and South Korea? I don't know the answer. That's why I asked the question, which leads me to the point whereby we probably can start with families that are separated. One of the values that we have globally is to promote families and how they relate to each other. So I'm wondering, to what extent have we identified families that have been separated between North and South, and how they can be reconciled or be brought together? That might be one area where we can explore possible dialogue with each other. So anyway, it's a question. I wonder to what extent we can identify people who have been separated and how they can be reunified in terms of families first, not in terms of government, but in terms of families, relatives, cousins, brothers, sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an important part of Asian value. The more I get older, the more I feel that I should connect with all my cousins, my sister, my sibling, and everyone else in my family, because we really cherish those connections, and we have a lot of memories together. So, what do you think?
Dr. Grace, you were in Korea until quite recently. I remember I've seen on YouTube the family reunification and the tears and so forth on some videos there. Do you know what is going on? Is there any action in that area?
Yeah, I myself don't know in details, but those photos, those events was on the TV every once in a while. It was showing, and they create a lot of emotional support. So so far, well, my understanding is very limited. I'm just for today's purpose, it points to begin to apply this cheap model of complementarity to North and South Korea situation. On this particular point, I don't have too much information on that, but yes, on the TV, we see that every once in a while, and a lot of people express, and there's no further, as far as I know, no concrete information come out from there, either through media or from government official reports. So, yeah. But by the way, back to the Korean cultures, as Dr. Salosa mentioned about, actually, the chairman Kim Jong-un really loved K-pop. He really do. Yes, yeah. So maybe the K-pop should make a trip to go there and to perform, and to just as to communicate, to build out the communication and bring the cultures back there, and to start some kind of diplomatic relationship. But yeah, Kim Jong-un, the chairman Kim Jong-un, really loved K-pop, and somehow the K-pop, unfortunately, is not, because the young men have to fulfill their obligation to serve the military. So quite a few of them have to do those kind of obligations. So therefore, the K-pop is kind of taking a little rest now in that reason, for that reason. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's a rock out instead of talk. That might be inspiring. Actually, we had our last webinar, I think it was last week, we had it on Korean culture and K-pop and stuff, and there were some young people were commenting on it, and I just put in the chat here an address where you can find the previous live webinars if you want to look at that, or other previous ones. Just to go through some comments here on the chat, we get greetings from Imam Arif Husik from Michigan. And also we got the greetings from a very cold and snowy Ontario in Canada from Dr. Labarge. And then we have some comment here about some appreciations. Anita says, good point, Dr. Albert, an excellent point here from Leslie Rigney, and welcome from Dr. Salosa to Anita, and a comment from William Stoner here about headwing thinking. So I just want to highlight these contributions to our discussion here. Let's see.
May I ask you a question, Dr. Burke? What values do you think are pervasive in your region of the world origin? What about, it's been said that the Scandinavians are the happiest people in the world. So why do you think that is? And why they generally, the cultures are peaceful. There might be some secret to that you know.
Shalom. No, thank you so much for that comment. Well, yeah, it's true. Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark have many times high ratings on happiness scale or satisfaction. I think it's part of this. Peace is not so much violence in society, and material prosperity too. I think there is also, in my mind, I'm biased, having grown up in Sweden, but I think the long winter really helps you think ahead, because if you don't prepare and think long term, then you suffer, and still you have to suffer. I remember to survive the winter, I learned I had to take about 3 weeks of freezing in the fall. Otherwise, my pores of my skin didn't tighten up and I was freezing the whole winter. So I had to go out and suffer in some way to, toughen myself up. So that was part of it. On the other side, I think also nations go through cycles. And some years ago, those nations were seen as very violent. And I guess they wanted to leave. My wife, who is from Britain, doesn't really take my description of touristing in 1,000 years ago about Vikings. She feels they did other ways. They were, they're related in different ways. So this, I think nations go through ups and downs, and maybe now Scandinavia and associated countries has an up, but in the past they weren't nice. And there's a season. So anyway, that's just some offhand comments here. Thank you for the question. I wish that everybody I talk to in my home would be actually happy and not just average happy, according to a survey. I want to ask, we are kind of on the theme of rules of reciprocity, golden rule, silver rule. It's been expressed, and Dr. Slosa, you're very well versed on that, I attended your presentation. What are your favorite personal expressions of these rules, if you have one, or flavor of these rules? Dr. Grace, Dr. Celosa, there's sowing and reaping kind of idea that whatever you give out comes back. So do you have what's your favorite flavor of expressions, if I may ask?
Well, I think one very important concept that we learned from the Hindus and from the Buddhists is the concept of karma. I think it's become universal now. The word karma is from Sanskrit, but many of us throughout the world have accepted the word karma. Now, karma in the sense that all our actions have consequences. So if we sow something good, so we are going to get back something good. If we sow something bad, we are going to get back something bad. So either we believe that, you see, the word karma means action. But some people have said it's fate. No, it's about action. So we act, and however we act to ourselves and to one another, that is a way of coming back. And so the word karma is very important. I think that if I have one sentence, one concept, it's they say it's good karma to do good things, and it's bad karma to do bad things. And so it's good to sow something good. So universally, I think that I really thank our Hindu and Buddhist brothers and sisters for promoting that concept. We have learned so much from it.
Thank you. Good.
So if I may just mention a little bit about to respond to your question. In Confucius' idea that reciprocity is the basis of a human relations, and especially centered on this su. In Chinese pronunciation is su, is the forgiveness. The forgiveness, if people treat you not right, it's the opposite of these golden rules. The golden rules, like do unto others as you would have them to do unto you, right? Or like love your neighbors as yourself. But this su is a step further than that, and that is forgive. To forgive what somebody did something wrong to you. Forgive. Not only to forgive, but in our religious teachings, It's not just forgive, but also forget. If one can forgive but not be able to forget, it's not going to be easy, right? Somebody did something wrong to you, you forgive. I say, oh, okay, I forgive you. But every time you talk with somebody else, you still remember that your forgiveness. But so one have to be able to forget that you already you're already forgiven. Then therefore, then your behavior, from the internal attitude will complete, like as if nothing happened, then you can treat the other person completely as a new person. So I would say that Chinese Confucius idea of this is su, the forgiveness, is something, is in Chinese writing, is on your heart, that on your heart you are willing to embrace the other person. If you're forgiven, you'll be able to forget what's been done wrongly to you. So I think that's something is probably, for me personally, I feel like it can be it's a very motivating principle for me to follow through.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. And lastly, if we, I wonder, in addition to talking about this gold and silver rules and reciprocity and su and karma, which is very good, are there any other ways to encourage intentionality we have yet to touch upon in our little discussion here, which is very brief, and I'm sure there are a lot of implications beyond what we have mentioned. I appreciate Sue, and that's wonderful. Do you, somebody who doesn't really get it? How do you convey or teach or help the other person to understand? Any comment on that as we come to the close here?
I think as a way of closing things, whatever we do to others, we do to ourselves. I think that's a very important notion. Sometimes we think that when we do certain things to others, when we harm others, we also harm ourselves in the long run. And so we are all interconnected. Sometimes it's hard to see that, but I think realizing that whatever I do to you, I do to myself, and so those have really long-term implications. I better be careful by what I do to you, because in the long run, I also do it to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Grace?
Yes, I would like to say that the word empathy is something that I really take that very dear in my heart, because if I see things, I see people, even either in the family or in the community, the empathy, if I can be empathetic, then internally, and that will help me to know what's the next step to do and how to relate to that, how to respond to the situation, to the people, to the thing. So I think the empathy, that word, that empathy, being able to be empathetic, is something, could be a guiding point personally, that helped me to be able to treat others fairly, and internally I can feel good about myself as being a good citizen. So the empathy is the key to me personally. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's we got one more question here on the chat, one last one, but I thank you, Dr. Grace and Dr. Celosa, for those comments. Let's see if I can understand this question. My question is, how may this be more specifically applicable towards achieving world peace as well as unity of North and South Korea? He's talking the commitment to peace that resembles God's heart. Okay. we need each other. I think that was Mr. Franklin here commented on. We are kind of running out of time, and I wish the question had come a little bit earlier. We can address it in more comprehensive way. Yet I just want to say with this late question that there are many more things we can talk about universal values, and especially about the rules of reciprocity and how to propagate that and how to make it universally applicable. So I want to thank you, Dr. Grace Sellover, Dr. Albert Solosa, for taking the time to share with us some words of wisdom here that I wasn't aware of at all, as you shared. It was quite enlightening for me, so I am grateful for that. And I'm grateful for all the participants online live at this time, and those who view it on the live stream through Facebook and or the recording afterwards. I just want to thank you for taking time to study about rules of reciprocity, and may we all apply it much better so we can together make a better world. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you. Next Tuesday at the same time, different login, but at the same time, another installment of Making World Peace. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Silver.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
God bless you all.
Thank you.
God bless.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. This was great. Great. Hey, Claudine. Thank you so much.
It's great, as always.
Yeah, but yeah, this one especially.
Grace, bravo.
Hi, Claudine.
Yeah, it was lovely. Wow, I took lots of notes.
Oh, thank you. Nice to see you, Claudine. That was way back in Chicago, right? Chicago.
Oh.
Days. Yeah. See you. Thank you.
Dr. Silver, is your husband Dr. Thomas Silver?
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
powerful couple. Thank you.
Thank you.
He was recently called back to America by True Mother to participate in PWPA, wasn't he?
Yes, to work on that. Yes.
Good.
PWPA International. Yes, that's precisely correct.
Mhm.
Nice to see you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.